On this episode of Semmelweis STEMtalk, we're joined by Dr. Zsófia Bodó, a space systems engineer working at the Galileo Control Centre in Germany. Her work focuses on the systems here on Earth that help monitor and manage Europe's satellite network and keep this critical technology operating reliably. But Zsófia's story is also one of perseverance and resilience. As someone living with cancer, she has chosen to remain active in the space community, and her own experiences have made accessibility an increasingly important part of her work and advocacy. She is also president of SpaceBrewery, a community for aspiring space professionals. And she hosts a Hungarian-language podcast that brings European space industry to a wider audience. Today, we'll be talking about her work, accessibility, and the perseverance it takes to keep moving forward when life changes course. Hi, Zsófia. Thank you so much for being here today. Now, tell us, please, a little bit about yourself and about your journey.
Hi, and thank you so much for having me. My name is Zsófia Bodó, and I am a space engineer and a system engineer. I work and live in Munich for approximately 7 years now, but I am originally from Budapest. I did my studies and PhD at BME, the Technical University of Budapest, and since high school, I actually just met my high school teacher 2 days ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it on purpose or was it like a chance encounter?
It was both, so I actually haven't seen her for quite some time, and we were in touch on Facebook, and I was just writing to her that it would be really nice to see her, you know, this kind of life of expats when you visit home for a tiny fraction of time, you try to squeeze in as many friends and nice people and family as you can. So it was really nice because in high school was my where my love for space began. So it was very nice to come back and say like, hey, I made it. I am a space engineer.
That is fantastic. And did this particular teacher play a role of some sort, or?
She actually was my English teacher. Basically, I went to a very interesting high school. It's called AKG, Alternatív Közgazdasági Gymnasium. And it is, interestingly, so it's not this very strict system.
Yeah.
But it had a bit of like this Anglo-Saxon system that it had inside like one class, you had like tiny little bit of classes, like 9 to 10 people, which was considered like one class. So we basically had one teacher who was like the leader of
like the class teacher.
Yeah, the class teacher. So it was very, very personal. Wow. And also it was interesting that for this high school, there was a rule that if there was like 8 or 9 students wanting to learn something, that they were trying to get a teacher for that. So
that's amazing.
There were students who decided that they wanted to learn Japanese or something like that, and that was possible. And in this high school, there was an amazing astronomy class and an amazing astronomy club.
Yeah,
and I fell in love with it. So this was basically, I think, one of the main causes that I fell in love with space. And I went to like student competitions. I managed to win some. So I was actually in the US when I was 16.
Wow, amazing.
It was super amazing. So we were 9 students from all around the world. Right. There were 2 Hungarian girls in it. And we were the first civilians who managed to make a photograph with the Mars Global Surveyor at the time. Yeah.
Wow. That's such an amazing story. You know, when I think everybody's kind of aware of the fact that when we talk about engineering of any sort, women are still quite underrepresented. So I imagine when you go to university, probably you don't meet too many other girls or other women who are also pursuing the same career. Did you have any role models who maybe kept you going when things were difficult?
Yes, and this is actually funny because I remember going to the university I think there was like, in our class, there was like 1,000 or 1,200 people, and there were like 63 women, and which is like 5% or something like that. And everybody was like jealous of our class that, oh, there is so many women in that particular class. But the thing is that I was growing up with my mom being a space engineer, or she used to be a kind of a space engineer. And interestingly, so for me, it never really occurred that this would be a male dominant field. I grew up with my mom being in the Hungarian army. So it has an interesting story before that. My parents are both in geodesy, and they met at the TU Budapest in the geodesy faculty.
Right.
And so for geodesy, there is like, let's say, 2 categories. One is on the constructions, you know, like this 3-legged yellow machines that are measuring on a very precise detail level. And another one is like, it's called the upper geodesy, which is doing similar things but with celestial objects. So they are measuring distances between celestial bodies, let it be planets, moons, or, for example, artificial satellites. And when my mom finished in the 80s, she learned that, so she was very interested in this upper geodesy. And she learned that there is half open, half closed project. I mean, this was back in where there was the communist era in Hungary in the 80s. In near Szentendre, so north of Budapest, there is a military observatory. And they were doing measurements for satellites, like satellite position measurements. And she went there. So, like, she knocked on the door, like, hey, I really would like to do this. And they sent her away. Like, she is civilian. She cannot do this. So she joined the army, the Hungarian army. And
I mean, as you do, of course.
As you do, yeah. And then I'm not entirely sure how it was perfectly, but she was sent away that it was only taking up male colleagues. But she learned that 2 of her classmates were saying no to this project, so she went back again that like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still interested. And eventually, so she got accepted. And before my birth and before the birth of my brother, she was working there. And after that, so I think that they were working with high power lasers to do these measurements. And lasers and pregnancy does not go very well together. So she needed to stop when we were arriving. And then she stayed in the military. And she stayed in the artillery, which is like not really...
What an amazing woman. I mean, that's such a great story.
And it's like, she's such a big role model for me, but she's very humble. So like both my father and my mother, like they are amazing in their job. So I think I'm very hoping that I can get their work ethic and like what their bravery, but they are both like really humble. And I think my mom has never given an interview, I think since the 90s or something. I think she should though.
That is an amazing story. Really.
I hope that, I mean, she's watching everything. So mom, give an interview.
Maybe even here.
Yes.
And speaking of work, what is it? So you work now as a systems engineer.
Yes.
In Germany.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what does that work involve usually?
The place where I work is the Galileo satellites. So Galileo is a global navigation system, and it is similar to GPS. So everybody is saying Galileo is the European GPS. This is something that is like scratching my nerves. Because GPS
obviously we're better, so
actually it is. Actually, so GPS was one of the first, and it became very popular. And I think now the difference between Galileo is that so Galileo is an international one, and also it is the first and only civilian use case.
Right.
So there is 4 different types of global navigation systems: GPS for the US, Baidu for China, GLONASS for the Russians, and Galileo for the European Space Agency. If you are navigating, like if you try to come from point A to point B, your phone is getting signals for most of them.
Right.
And Galileo has a lot of additional layers for precision and search and rescue functions. I find it really interesting that in Hungary and also in Europe in general, people are using such a big satellite network and they do not really know that they are using it. So it's kind of a contradiction. So I work in the control center in next to Munich. It's a place called Oberpfaffenhofen, which is a close military airport with a lot of projects from the German Space Agency and also this international project. So it's interesting because from the neighboring building, we have the German Space Operations Center, which is, for example, there is control for the International Space Station and the Columbus module there. My work there is a system engineer, and it's a very interesting topic because we touch everything a little bit and nothing at the same time. I was thinking today like how to explain, and so I have a lot of construction stories from my father's side, and he mentioned that there was a bridge development near Nyugati pályaudvar.
Yes.
And they started from the 2 direction, and eventually the bridge was not touching each other. So they needed to go back and try to do again.
Yeah.
And this is what system engineers are doing, that you have a lot of functions, thermal engineering or software development, satellite communication, etc. And you make sure that you talk a little bit to all of the teams, and you make sure that eventually those requirements and the product is reaching each other.
Wow, that sounds very complex.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's actually, it's always different.
Yeah.
You need to talk with a lot of different people.
Right.
And in Galileo, these people are coming from different backgrounds because Galileo is a European project.
Yes.
So in the same project, you have Spanish people, you have German people, you have Italian people, Hungarians.
Yes.
Everybody with their own background and culture, and
I love that.
Yeah,
I love
me
it.
too.
It's like a melting pot of different cultures. The question I have for you, because you mentioned, the military and this whole story with your mom, how they wouldn't take her because, she was a civilian. When you work on something like this, does it involve a lot of, I don't know, security, clearance, or whatever it is before you're allowed to do this work?
So, yes and no. This is quite a big project, and it has different parts. And for example, like if you are starting, you are not necessarily starting to have a background check. But when I was hired, it was very clear that, it's like I need to be okay with doing something like a background check. And it's really interesting because it's a big project. So there are like thousands of people, and it's a very complex system.
Yeah.
And that means that there is a rule that what you touch is the one that you get access to. So for example, there are parts of the control center where my card doesn't work. There are other parts where my colleague's card doesn't work. So it's I think that these kind of things that I grew up to say that my mom had this military background, and you kind of understand and accept that sometimes there are strict rules that
of course. I mean, how else would you do it? Yeah.
It's but it's actually understandable. So currently there are if you hear about, there is a growing issue of GNSS jamming and spoofing, which is like a malicious attack on GNSS receivers down on the Earth. And for example, these are getting a bit riskier also in Europe. For example, in the Baltic states, it is actually giving some problems for the precision agriculture or even the commercial aircraft or the commercial travel.
Yeah.
So I think this is something that every role has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
And I think that you need to be aware of like what is okay for you and what not. So for example, if you want to work with very new programming languages and experiment, then this is not a project for you. However, if you are interested in how to maintain a huge project where critical infrastructure is sitting on top of it, because for example, I don't know if you know, but for Galileo, it's not only navigation that is sitting. They have these very precise atomic clocks. And for example, if you use an ATM or if you are doing bank transfer, this is also sitting on top of Galileo.
Wow.
Because it's
no pressure.
no pressure. So it's so there is a lot of things that I could just ruin if I don't do my job well.
Well, we really hope you do your job well.
Yeah.
But speaking of your work, it's very, very interesting. But then there's another part of your story, a little bit on the private side, but you have been very vocal and open about it in the past, is the fact that you are currently living with cancer and you're undergoing cancer treatments.
Yes.
How did you find out, and how has this changed your life?
So yes, it changed my life quite a lot. I was diagnosed 2.5 years ago, in March, and I mean, of course, it was very shocking. So I mean, this is not the story that you expect for yourself. And one thing that I realized is that, okay, this is going to be too much for me. So I decided, I don't know how, maybe it was intuitive or something, I want to live kind of feeling just kicked in. And I came out in front of my colleagues because I knew that it's going to be eventually, found out.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what to expect. So I actually, before that, I never really had anybody in my close family or around my friends having cancer. So I kind of only had this Netflix kind of role model, which is like the person who passed away in a movie, which is
not a great role model, I would say.
it's not the role model that you want to.
Right.
And in Germany, I mean, I was really lucky. I kind of got accidentally a super nice and very great hospital. And here they had the first staging. So you got the diagnosis. And then in the next 2-3 weeks, you go through like a devil's circle where you get either neutral news or even worse news.
Right.
And that is like kind of like a free fall, because then they are doing the biopsy, they are checking the possibility for metastasis.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it turned out that I had different metastases. And that meant that I am having a cancer that is in stage 4, and that is, in the current medical terms, it's going to stay with me.
Right.
So this is something that it really changed my life in that sense that, okay, now I became disabled in that sense, and I need to learn to live with it. So it's a very interesting topic. And one thing that really helped is like I was working to be in space engineering since my high school.
Yeah.
So I decided that I identify myself not as a cancer patient,
Yes.
but a space engineer who is besides having cancer.
Right.
So I continued to work full time. Sometimes I work from the hospital.
Yeah.
And I think this really helped me in that sense to find some meaning inside it. And of course, it made a lot of changes because I was undergoing at the first year 22 rounds of chemotherapy. Wow. So as anybody can imagine, I also had my fair share of like sitting in the bathroom floor with the palinka in my head and my scissors and cutting my own hair. So it was a really interesting topic. But on the other hand, I found that the German space community is really amazing. I have the informal record of the most space engineers coming to the oncology with me,
That is so sweet.
which is like amazing. Like they never left me alone, and that's really, really amazing.
Wow, that sounds like a very challenging journey, to say the least.
Yes.
And what I hear from your story is that you decided not to let yourself become, the victim of the situation, and you decided that you're going to live. You're going to live and you're going to do things, and you're going to continue to do great things. And how has this influenced, for example, your work? Because you said you decided to stay working. Does your work look different now?
Yes. So one thing is that these kind of things that I got very early, that this cancer is going to stay, then I realized that it's not something that I can put my life on hold and heal, but now I need to figure out a way to do this at the same time, like heal and continue to live and create. And this actually helped in my mental health as well, to say that I have always been loving space. I always loved creating. And very interestingly, I think that since my diagnosis, I had the most successful space engineer life. I was taking part in 3 rocket launches for 6 satellites, and soon the new ones are coming. So in that sense, it's funny to say when you have cancer, but also I can be very grateful for a lot of things that are happening in my life. And I'm also very, very grateful for my employer. On one side, I mean, I remember that meeting when I shared it in an online meeting, in a normal Monday morning meeting, that, oh, by the way, I have something to say. So I have 2 bosses, and they were like super nice. That like I called them after my diagnosis. I actually was in shock, so I asked for 2 days of mental health, like licking my wounds and stuff like that. And then they said like, okay, you decide whether or not you want to share and how you want to share. And I said like, okay, let's put it out on the table, because for sure it's going to be visible, and it's going to cause situations that are going to be tricky. So the team was, I mean, of course they were in shock, but they were super nice. Like, for example, in the morning of my first chemotherapy, my boss was sending me a WhatsApp, and they were creating from my intermediate team and a lot of our customers and those kind of people whom I was interacting with. They created like an online postcard collection.
Wow, that's so sweet.
And they were sending it me on WhatsApp when I was going to my first chemo, and I was like in tears of like in the chemo. And also on the other side, so I needed to isolate myself at the beginning. So I didn't know how my body is going to react. So we kind of tricked my work a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, for example, as you said, like in this security kind of reasons, a lot of things cannot be reached from the outside of the control center. So the amount and how we can do home office is limited.
Right.
And one thing which I really love planning, and I like to see that if you do this and the other wants to do this, then there is like some kind of dependency here and there.
Yeah.
I was doing some Scrum and Agile before going to space. And there is a big planning meeting every Wednesday where everybody is bringing everything that you want to do with Galileo in the upcoming 3 months. Yes. Let's say with this satellite, I want to do a maneuver, or there is a launch coming, or we are going to remove the rust from an antenna in the Pacific Ocean. And there is a lot of dependency. So, for example, if you go and remove the rust from the antenna, you need to pull out that antenna from the system, because doing the uplink with such a high power antenna could have medical consequences of the people going there.
Yeah.
So I love so much that meeting. It's every Wednesday. I actually moved my chemotherapy with 1 day so that I could, bring and move forward. And this is something my boss was like saying, like, you really did move your chemotherapy for a meeting? And I was like, yeah, it makes me happy. And this is one thing that I learned, that if I concentrate on like what things that makes me happy, that is it makes it much easier to work on the situation that are not so fun. And the other one is like being visible.
Yeah.
So I kind of grew up stating that I am from a small country, I am a female, and I'm interested in space. So that already makes me kind of a weirdo. And then I moved to Germany. I realized there are much more females there who are interested in space. But then having this disability, having the cancer, it made me the weirdo again. A weirdo in a sense that it's going to be very visible. So I was completely bald. I had no eyelashes. I had nothing on my face. And I got a very good advice. Like, when you buy your first wig, do not buy something that is resembling to your own hair, because then you would do the comparison all the time. And I was always like this boring brown hair, never colored my hair. So I went there and I bought a red wig. And in the corner, that was a pink wig. And I was like checking the wigs, seeing which is good, which is completely bad. And all the time I was like looking at that pink wig. And eventually it's like, shoot. I mean, it's like, I can buy it if it makes me happy. So I was the one who was going to the control center in this very male-dominated environment with my little pink wig.
Oh, that's such a cute story.
And before that, I actually was making a vote with my team in the control center, saying like, hey guys, I'm buying a wig. Which color should I buy? And they were voting pink, actually, even before knowing the story. So
did you have just the one, or did you switch them around?
I was having the two. I was having the red and the pink, and I was like switching around.
It's lovely how you find, your own ways to make things fun during such a difficult time. And I guess for a lot of people, such a thing as a diagnosis of cancer, it probably divides your life into before and after.
Yes.
I guess in many ways. And what have you learned from this journey? Surely there's been a lot of lessons along the way.
On one side, it's like I realized that bravery is a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And, the more you exercise, the easier things are getting. So before that, I was the person who was like postponing for years a simple blood being taken because I was so afraid of needles.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of panic attacks. So, of course, you go there and like being your blood taken, being a surgery, having a port, etc. It's a lot of invasive and painful experiences. And I learned that for simple challenges, you can make things easier. So, for example, I have 2 dogs, and I remember before one of my chemos, I was very afraid. And I didn't want to go. I really didn't want to go. And I don't know how, but in the morning when I went down to walk the dogs, I was already bored.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that, okay, I just go down without my wig, like naked in that sense. I mean, it was like not a high-stake environment. Like, it's like going down to do the walk, you see your neighbors, etc. It's like, okay, this is so nice. And the rain started to fall very softly. And I'm like, this is amazing. I have never felt the rain touching my head. And it was such a nice and soft experience. So I realized that these kind of experiences can help in other places. And another point is that I think one thing I learned is adaptability and resilience. For example, just imagine a day that on the morning you have like heavy satellites related deadlines that you need to keep. And then you go and get like 7 bags of IV treatment to your body. And for me, that's now a regular Thursday. And this is not something that I ever could have imagined. And another thing is that, so chemo is quite a hard drug. And I have like currently 6 different parallel treatment, not chemotherapy anymore, but different types. And all of them are having heavy but different effects on my body. I needed to relearn and adapt again and again. So at one point I had this chemo brain and I was like forgetting a lot of things and it was annoying. So I needed to, okay, let's pull out my old time management tricks from what I learned during university and try to squeeze things a little bit. I mean, of course, in the first year, I got diagnosed like right before the yearly review, so we kind of skipped that. But since the next year, it's like, okay, you need to get back again to this yearly review, because if you decide to keep working, you need to be productive. And of course, we can be nice with you, like here and there, or helpful or for your health needs. And that was actually a learning process to see. We had a very close feedback with my managers and saying like when I was, for example, lacking something or forgetting things, or what could I do better, what they would need more.
Besides your work, that's one decision that you made to stay, active and to continue work. But beyond that, you've actually started quite a few new things since then. And one of the things is related to your advocacy work, which is related to accessibility. Can you tell us a little bit about the background behind that whole thing?
One thing about me is like when I'm sad, when something bad happens to me, I'm a nerd, so I need to learn something. And of course, after my diagnosis, it's like, okay, I need to just keep my mind in check and learn something new. And there is a yearly conference, and that year it was Milan, in Italy. It is the International Astronautical Congress with I don't know, a lot of people, like thousands of people. It's the biggest space conference of the year worldwide. And I went there 2 or 3 days after my chemotherapy, and I realized that the conference was not ready for me or for persons with my experience. A simple example, for safety reasons, there was a huge line standing outside the venue because everybody needed their bag screened, like in an airport screener. But the thing is that for me, at that point, I was not able to stand in line for such a long period. And I needed to be very vocal about it and ask for help. And I was looking around and I was realizing that I do not really see people with any kind of disability. Right. And obviously, I mean, not with people with cancer in particular, but somebody who has a wheelchair, somebody who is blind, somebody who is deaf. And it made me start to think, because in my experience, space is a topic that is very heavily related with work with your mind. So having any kind of disability should not be such a problem. So my engineering mind kind of kicked in, and I started to collect some data. And there is 2 data that I find very striking from WHO. One is that 1 out of 6 people approximately is disabled. So it's a very big population. And the other one, which was very surprising to me, is that around 85% of disabilities are not born with, but acquired. Right. So being disabled or having a disabled colleague or somebody in your work environment, this is actually not by chance, but it's rather a probability that is going to happen. And we have tendencies. So one is like the space careers are getting longer and longer in time, and more people are needed in the space industry. And also treatments are getting better. So for example, the kind of lifestyle that I'm having now, I know that some decades ago, this wouldn't have been possible. So this is where I decided that I want to change this in a sense that making the space industry a bit more accessible. I think that many things come from the historical connectedness of space research and the military. You know, when the astronauts back then needed to be fighter jet pilots, etc. But now space is democratizing, so there are more and more different type of people. The gender equity, I mean, still there is a long way to go, but it's getting better and better. I started to work with events because I realized personally, for me, it's like if you have an illness, you need to be visible if you want to have a career. So I decided to focus first on events, and I created a conference accessibility toolkit. And it was just me like writing it to Google Docs and sharing it to LinkedIn. And I got a notification from colleagues from the ESA, European Space Agency Business Incubation Center in Munich or in Bavaria, that, hey, I was sending this to ESA colleagues. And this year, there are conferences like the ESA Space Industry Days and the ESA Open Day in Noordwijk in the Netherlands. and they are using the toolkit that I put together, and that's like, wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's like just, it's so nice that it's so democratic in that sense that you can just have an idea, create, share it,
Yeah.
and try to say that, oh, here it is. Like, do you want to use it?
That's amazing. I love how, you used your own experiences to give something back to society in general and to other people. I think that's wonderful. But I also know there's another thing that you're involved in. You are the president of SpaceBrewery.
Yes.
What is that? Tell us a little bit about that, please.
So SpaceBrewery, it's an NGO in Bavaria, and it is about making connections in and out of the space industry. So with brewery, it's like we have the title of like, let's brew new space ideas.
Oh, that's nice. I love that.
And I think it's a very good tapping into the general Bavarian lifestyle, like going down and sitting down next to a beer and talking about space. So the whole story started 7 years ago when there are a lot of space companies in Munich, and the Airbus people go for a dinner together and talk together. The people from OHB do the same in a separate beer garden. And the idea was like, let's have a place where these people can meet and actually exchange ideas. And so, for example, we are doing like monthly events. Next week, we are going to have another beer garden event. And, it's like last time, some weeks ago, there were like 40 people together talking about space in a relaxed setting.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. And it was actually very interesting because when I moved to Munich, I didn't know anybody, and I was like really missing my old friends in Hungary. So I actually went up to Meetup and looking for space communities. And one of the first one was SpaceBrewery.
Right.
And it was like, I went there, I knew nobody. And it's so great that, oh, by the way, now I am the president, and now I can give back to this community that I got so much when I was really not knowing anybody.
That's so amazing. And it sounds to me like, you found community there, but also at your workplace. It seems like a lot of people got together to support you.
Yeah.
And I think that's really wonderful.
I think for me, it's just so amazing. I have a story. Cancer is very tricky because in times you are good. You can drive home. You can have your own life, live your own life. But in some cases, like for example, like doing the treatment, it is good that you have somebody who is like coming next to you in the metro and helping you going home, or just brings you a sandwich from the cafeteria. And I was reaching out to friends on Facebook, and there was a woman, and she is a customer from ESA, and she was volunteering. And I was like, oh, this is so weird that you have like somebody who is in the official life is a customer to you. But then you realize we talked a lot, and it was so nice that, it's like human, and like this kind of connections is actually can deepen the work relationship as well.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Actually, I think like one thing, and I found it extremely cheesy when I started. But I think it really works, and I do it like maniacally. I started to do a grateful list, like when I was diagnosed, and to find like 3 things that you are grateful for that day. And then I realized that it helps if I write down additionally one thing that I'm proud of myself. And it can be like very simple, like I did my dishes, even though I didn't want to do. And I think that it really, really helped me to have a much better or mental health-wise healthier way of coping with this. And one thing that is really, really weird or surprising, I managed to write 3 things that I'm grateful for on the day when I learned that my cancer is not curable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, just so nice that, of course, it was not like big things and it was not the day of my life, but still, I don't even remember. It might have been my dog did something, or a friend, etc.
Yeah, but that's the thing about these lists, it's not about having the best day of your life or waiting to have a good life before you can start feeling grateful. It's about being grateful for what you already have.
Yes.
And that keeps bringing more things into your life to be grateful about. At least I think that is really true. And I love the whole list thing. I actually do something similar, not writing down, but kind of like mentally in my head. And there's another new thing that you started after the diagnosis.
Yes.
Which is a podcast. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So one thing I really loved is teaching kids.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, with the cancer and the chemo story, this needed to be put on hold. But this summer, I was hosting the Hungarian Radio Amateur Society with kids who were going to an amateur radio conference in the Bodensee.
Mm-hmm.
And I invited them, and we spent 2-3 days together going around in the space communities, and I was showing them space-related stuff in Munich. And we had a very nice time. And I was telling stories about the European space. And one thing that I realized is that these stories interest a lot of people.
Yeah.
And luckily in Hungarian, we have more and more very great podcasts or content about space.
Yeah.
But we don't really talk about Europe. And even today I was reading some comments about like, the European space is not great, etc. And I think that people do not really know what is going on in Europe. And for example, in navigation or in meteorological satellites, we are the best of the world, Europe-wise. But it's a bit easy to say that, okay, you have like the rockets, for example, with the rocket transportation, we are still having some issues. So we still need to do a lot of research. But in certain cases, we are doing a lot.
Yeah.
And I decided I really love podcasts.
Yeah.
I mean, because of my dogs, I'm driving back and forth between Hungary and Germany. So I listen podcasts all the time. And then it's like, okay, let's try to start a podcast. And I started a podcast. It's called Európai Űrpercek, which means European Space Minutes. It's about like every second week, I talk about 20-25 minutes about like one particular space story in Europe. So for example, we had the solar eclipse, and I don't know if you know, but the ESA we did 2 satellites that are flying in constellation 150 meters from each other, 60,000 kilometers away from the Earth, and are creating artificial solar eclipses in front of one another.
Very interesting.
So that the scientists could observe the sun's corona. This is an interesting area because this is how the solar wind is starting. And as the sun is very, very bright, usually it is much brighter, so you cannot see this tiny little area around it. And for example, these satellites are capable of keeping this formation for 6 hours. So it's much, much more time for the scientists to observe this.
Sounds to me like you've been doing a lot of things besides your work.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you're hoping to do in the near future or anything you're excited about coming up?
I wanted to say about first the story about what I did after my chemotherapy. It's so after my before my chemotherapy started, I had some crazy thoughts of like, okay, I will not have any more Christmas, etc. And one thing in particular that I love Scandinavia, and that I will not see Norway. So somehow it got stuck that I will not see Norway. And I'm driving with my dogs back and forth between Budapest. And I needed to be in Hamburg in December. And as I work in navigation and I have all the time like maps in front of me. And I was like, I am in Hamburg, but Oslo is only 10 hours of drive from Oslo. So I decided that in January, I went up from Hamburg to Oslo with my 2 dogs as a road trip. So this is something that that gives me. I did it since then, and I'm planning to do it also this year.
Fantastic.
Because this is something that is my holiday, and it's the nature and this rawness and this kind of things that I need to solve everything for myself. It really helps me. And another topic is the science related topic that I'm really looking forward is I have been invited to Paris, to France, to be an expert in a workshop about the topic of who gets the ticket for space. So I'm trying to bring forward this accessibility topic, and I try to make it popular in that sense that we at least start to talk about it.
Right.
Because I think that, space is not something that we do it for itself. We do it to get results that we can use back in Earth. And we know so many things about how an able body is behaving in space.
Yeah.
But for example, I don't know if you know, but last December, even for a short period, but we had the first wheelchair user in space.
Right.
Yeah.
That's huge progress.
Yeah, I think it's and I'm really hopeful in that sense, because space is changing so much, like how we deal with it. And I think this is something that is coming, and it's going to be, it might change a lot of lives for the better.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. To wrap up this conversation for today, as someone who's had a lot of difficult experiences, but also someone who's learned so much along the way, is there any advice you'd like to give to the future generation of young people who are interested in space in general, and maybe some advice for girls and young women in particular?
Yeah, so I think that life is going to throw a lot of obstacles, and sometimes you feel that, okay, I'm not made for this. But the thing is that it doesn't matter how many times you feel that, okay, I cannot go forward. But if you really just take one step, then eventually it can be a lot of things. When I did the chemo, it was very overwhelming to me. And I was only focusing on that week. That on that particular Thursday, I need to go to the hospital. And I did not care about the next weeks and the next weeks. And one thing that I was overwhelmed when I was young is that, this whole journey to space seemed so overwhelming and so long, and I couldn't imagine myself not stumbling on my feet at one point. Right. But the thing is that it doesn't matter, because if you do the steps, it's like you look back and it's like, oh, I actually did a lot of steps. And the other one is for girls in particular, because I think space is a place for a lot of different types of people, but it's very easy to think that it is just only for one particular type of people. Mm-hmm. So for girls, I think it's like, look for people who are doing it, write to them. Because, for example, I know a lot of people who were either in your podcast or who have been in space. We like to help, and we are happy to see more and more people there. And it's much better in community, and it's much better if you know that you are not the only odd out. Being a weirdo in a community is much more fun than being a weirdo on your own.
I love that. Thank you so very much for making the time to come and see us. You have so much on your plate right now. All of the projects, all of the work, and the ongoing treatments as well. You're such a resilient person.
Thank you so much.
I applaud you, and I applaud your positivity, and I applaud the fact that you took the best parts of life of people and you brought all of these things together and brought them to the surface and consciously chose to focus on these things. And I wish you all the very best from my heart. I hope you continue on your journey with the same positivity, and I hope you keep bringing that positivity and light to the people around you, because, your journey, it's also a great example to other people, and it gives a lot of hope to the people around you as well. So the very best to you, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, and I'm really happy that we could make it happen.
Me too.